television audience has heard, we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. American television had just begun to move away from cowboys and Indians. Our look at Selma, our attention to resistance in the face of oppression will gain, I do believe, if we reconsider the time when King was alive. The 3 or 4 channels on our television sets, a medium barely into its teenage years, had programs like The Adventures of Kit Carson, The Adventures of Jim Bowie, The Adventures of Wild Bill Hickok, amidst a multitude of shows on cowboys and Indians. Kit, Jim, and Wild Bill were part of a phantasmagorical national look back at our frontiers people. These shows were filled with images of life shown through the eyes of pioneers who, with their Indian rousting, their sheriffs, and their outlaws. If you preferred an Indian slant on things, you could see Broken Arrow, Buckskin, and Hawkeye, and the last of the Mohicans. Evidently, America was cozy, with comfortable and oblivious to the idea that there had been a last of the Mohicans. When Martin Luther King Jr. spoke, it was more than TV shows that defined the era that we must consider. Because if we were at that time and we look back from the 1960s, we would find a century that began with cowboys and Indians before it turned to the world wars. The mid-1800s were saturated with conflict and land wars. There were many frontier battles, which all led to the resettlement or elimination east of the Mississippi of the Native American tribes. Among those who remained were the elders of the Hopi tribe, who, when they looked at their lives, said, "Here is a river flowing now fast. It is so great and swift that there are those who will be afraid, those who will try to hold on to the shore. They are being torn apart and will suffer greatly. Know that the river has a destination. The elders say we must let go of the shore, push off into the middle of the river, and keep our heads above water. And I say, see who is there with you and celebrate. At this time in history, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment we do, our spiritual growth and journey come to a halt. The time of the lone wolf is over. Gather yourselves. Banish the word struggle from your attitude and vocabulary. Banish the word struggle from your attitude and vocabulary. All that we do now must be done in a sacred manner, in celebration, for we are the ones we have been waiting for. Resilience in the face of oppression. Life is an exodus. Always an exodus? Well, let me ask you something. Is there somewhere you think you are going? Are there any plans that you have? Is there something that you wish could happen? that you are working toward, life is an exodus. Now the walk toward justice, toward voting rights and civil rights for all citizens of our country may have had a very important moment in Selma, may have made significant progress in the 1960s, but it is not yet concluded. The ongoing string of difficulties in Ferguson, Missouri, among other places, remind us that our society remains caught in an inescapable network of mutuality that continues to be tied in a single garment of destiny. A single garment, one garment, connects us all. And when we look at that garment, we can see that not all people are treated with equity or fairness in our land. I have been told that some are afraid of our streets, not so much for the crooks or the criminals who may be there, but for the vigilantes or law officers who might detain them for the way they walk, the clothes they wear, the look of their hair, except as shortcuts to the real reason they are stopped, the color of their skin. Did you know that we live in a state that has the highest rate of incarceration, not only in the United States, but also the entire world? I must remember that when I look again at the words said by Martin Luther King Jr. some 50 years ago. I'm happy to live in a period when we have been forced to a point where we're going to have to grapple with the problems that men have been trying to grapple with through history, but the demands didn't force them to do it. Survival demands that we grapple with them. People, for years now, have been talking about war and peace, but now no longer can they just talk about it. It is no longer a choice between violence and nonviolence in this world. It's nonviolence or non-existence. That is where we are today. And also, in the human rights revolution, if something isn't done and in a hurry to bring the colored peoples of the world out of their long years of poverty, their long years of hurt and neglect, the whole world is doomed. End quote. In 2 paragraphs, King refers to non-existence and the whole world being doomed. And I do not believe we want either of those outcomes. And since I don't believe it, I know that I have some work to do. There are efforts that I can make. There are efforts that we can make in order to bring a greater sense of justice and equity to this area. Now, on the plus side, these are huge accomplishments for which I am most grateful. The support of the Red Flame Hunters, an ongoing effort to help young children have a better experience than the streets. I'm also greatly pleased by the tremendous effort with Days for Girls, providing accessories for young women in Africa and other places. The Saturday Lunch for Laborers, another effort to help the working people of our area. The efforts of Mama Maji that we just heard about. Yes, there are ways in which we are beginning to bridge some of the divide that has been for quite some time. And sometimes we are seeing that here in this congregation. So perhaps I am a bit relieved today that I am speaking to an audience of people from the United States of America who have European ancestry, that is who I am speaking to today. Because I see that there are additional ways to study, learn, help, and assist in improving the inescapable network of each other, tied in a simple garment of destiny, of which we are a part. The greatest glory in living lies not in never failing, but in rising every time we fall, said Nelson Mandela. And so, in this month, when we reflect on Selma, and I would urge you to at least go see the movie. And in a month when youths around the country are looking again at race and racism with the hope to build bridges to those on the margins, I share a few insights I have recently gained on resilience in the face of oppression. The Center for Ethical Living has allowed its board members to attend training sessions with the People's Institute for Survival and beyond. It is usually a very mixed race group that attends these sessions. And I was there one time, very early in one of my first meetings, when a grandmother looked at me, and we had spent some time together, and she said, "Jim, you may not know this, but I have 2 grandsons." And I tremble in fear, and I lift up prayers every time they walk out of the house. These high school age young black boys are a source of concern to her. Not so much for what they might do, because we all know, I don't know about you, but at least some of us got in a little trouble when we were younger. I see it again. She's concerned about her grandson. And I heard another person speak and say, just last week, my sister was shot in a drive-by shooting. He was there for this training, despite the fact that his sister had been shot and killed in a drive-by shooting. I have heard that many young people, in fact, I've heard all the young people in the city of New Orleans know someone who has died way too young. Way too young. And there's nothing in an ethic of life and of living that says to me that this is fair or that this is appropriate or something that we should put up with. So I went to these sessions with the People's Institute. And I've been 3 times through their program. And let me tell you a little bit about the program, because one of the striking points that they do is they put up a tablet and they begin to ask people to describe what you see in a ghetto. And it's very interesting as people are describing what their experiences have been in the ghettos that they usually try to drive through quite quickly. And then, after looking at the fact that there are very few grocery stores in the ghetto, that there are, in fact, some very high-priced little supermarket on the corner where the quality of food is suspect. When you look at some of the differences in playgrounds, the lack thereof, schools, which students are being moved,